What an incredible week it's been. The sad news this week of the passing of Queen Elizabeth. And many of us are feeling a great sense of sadness and actually a great sense of shock. So often in life things come along that surprise us, that catch us out. Those storms of life that we're not expecting, as it was this week, with none of us expecting to hear such sad news. My daughter Maisie is currently travelling and she's in Copenhagen with a few friends. And she's staying in Airbnb and various places like that. And on one of the evenings this week, we had a number of text emails, which we have a family group that went to the family. And we're just asking her how she's getting on. Everything's fine. She's telling us all the exciting things that she's been doing. And then her very last text to us at 9:45 in the evening was this. Let me just read it to you. We have an odd roommate who smells and is annoying and dodgy. We have made a complaint and apparently he has refused to leave. So police might ask us for statements, but other than that, all is good. When you get a text like that at 9:45 in the evening, you're not going to sleep very well. Another example of the ways in which sometimes those storms of life, those things that concern us, come about so very, very quickly and completely surprise us. I've been reading over the last few weeks the story of Peter. Peter, for those of you that don't know, Peter was in a boat and there was a storm. He was with his friends, fellow disciples, some of whom were fishermen. And this storm comes up and then he sees a figure walking on the water. Peter recognises who that figure is. It was Jesus. And Peter says to Jesus, if it's you, command me to come and I'll come. And Peter actually steps out of the boat and he walks on water. And as I've been thinking about that story, it occurred to me what makes that quite surprising. Obviously the obvious thing, he walked on water. But apart from that was the fact that actually this was during a fierce storm. You see, I put myself in that position. I think, well, actually, if the weather was nice, if the water was calm, I'd probably give it a go. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? I get very wet. But this was a storm so ferocious that seasoned sailors were terrified. Those storms of life we have no control over. They come up and often surprise us, whether it be a text from youngest daughter or the sad news of someone passing, as was the case with the Queen this week. And many of us, if we're honest, and perhaps rightly so for a period, we want to hunker down. We want to have that sense of just taking stock and stopping and considering, maybe remembering the person that we've lost, or considering what we should do in certain situations. But I wonder if actually the biggest example the Queen set us was her willingness not to do that. You see, the Queen came into power at the passing of her father. And I'm sure there was times for this young girl where perhaps all she wanted to do was to hunker down, a bit like the disciples in the boat, to hunker down and be safe, to hunker down and ignore the storm that was perhaps raging outside. And yet she didn't. I think it's an incredible testimony of her character and a wonderful example to us that she didn't do that. She served. She served us as her nation in such an amazing and powerful way for so many years. Even this week, she met with the new Prime Minister just 2 days before her death. So with everything that is going on, with the COVID pandemic and all that we've had and have had to deal with that, with the war in Ukraine and the terrible stories that we hear and the things that we see on the news, the cost of living crisis as an outcome of that, and even perhaps the sad loss of our Queen this week. Perhaps the best thing we can do after that time to take stock is to actually get ourselves up and carry on. Get ourselves up and, like Peter, get out of that boat. Get out of that comfortable place, because when storms come, they don't come at our planning, they don't come at our choosing. They often come in a real surprising way, but it's how we react to those storms that counts. The best tribute to our Queen is to learn from the lessons she taught us, to be a people, particularly a Christian people, that are prepared to serve and give of ourselves as she did for so many, many years. Bless you. Have a good week.